Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Leaders SIG of the Agile Austin Group. Today, March 6th, we're connecting again. First time that we're connecting this year in 2026 and stuff. And for those of you that are not aware of the Leaders SIG, we're part of the Agile Austin umbrella, which is a knowledge sharing group for all things of Agile, the business agility, and we connect, we collaborate, and we grow, right? And I am Max Ekesi. I have been facilitating this group since 2009. Time flies. Time flies. It's been like 16 years and we're still having a blast, right? And I've been part of the Agile Austin group since 2009, and I'll tell you a bit more about that, right, as we get along. But I'm just going to do a few of these quick intro slides, and then we'll get started and switch over to Jay, our guest speaker. We have an awesome board. I was on the board for 4 years as president until last summer. And I always tell everybody, board at agileaustin.org. If anybody has an idea, a comment, or whatever, the case it may be, our board members are awesome. Awesome. Folks, I just tell people, go to the website. There's information on membership. There's information on sponsorship. I'm putting that information in the chat, and just go to agileaustin.org and get the information there, right? It's just awesome that we're a nonprofit around just share love and information on all things Agile. And we've got people that are part of it from Canada to Brazil. We've got some Europeans. The majority of people are from the Central Texas area and everything, but we have like 150 plus paying members, $35 a year. And, you get to connect with folks and just have some other perks to that, and discounts to our activities like our conference and everything. Shout out to our sponsors. We always appreciate our sponsors. Agile Velocity has been sponsors for a year. Resumex and SEMA are sponsors of ours, spearheading stuff in the AI space. And Ad Meliora also has been a sponsor for a long time. Thank you to our sponsors. Hold on here. I just want to make sure that I'm admitting everybody here. Okay, cool. That's in the waiting room. We'll skip this for now. We have meetup groups for all of our SIGs. Our SIGs are special interest groups, okay? I'll put this information here. The best thing to do, I always tell everybody, is subscribe. Subscribe on Meetup and you'll get all our communications for our events. We have about anywhere from 5 to 7 virtual events every month. There's various special interest groups. We have a book club, and we have a lot of things that it'll be awesome for people that you just want to hear about things. You get an email, and if it's a topic that you care about, come join us, right? It's as simple as that. As I said, this is the Leaders Special Interest Group, which Max have been facilitating since 2009. What I do, like outside of this, I'm founder and CEO of Carpe Diem Technologies. It's been 2 years now, software development shop, having a blast, using an agile mindset every day, now more than ever, right? After 23 years of corporate America, it's been a blast. It's been a blast. Contact us. I always tell people, if there's anything that you want to volunteer for, if there's anything that you want to do, please feel free to contact us and say if you'd like to volunteer for our conference that's coming up, for some other things. We're always happy to hear from people. Okay. We always have a schedule that is going on. Jay is going to talk about himself, so I'm not going to go into that now. But we have Lonnie Dame, who's also our VP, like of Agile Austin, and she's very much a strategist, a futurist, and just talking about how all the disruption of AI is coming in and how to embrace it, how to adapt and thrive in an ever-changing world. So she's going to be here on the 3rd of April. Like in a month. And then after that, we've got the Keep Austin Agile Conference, folks, April 10th. And who's speaking for that? We got Jay. Jay, are you speaking at the conference? Huh?
I am speaking there.
Awesome. I'm speaking there too. I have not spoken at the Agile Austin Conference for at least 5 or 6 years. So super excited to be there again. I'm putting the link in the chat. Okay, go to that, check it out. We've announced our speakers. We're about to announce our keynote speaker because we had a keynote speaker but that fell through because of work obligations they had that same week. So we're announcing our new keynote speaker this weekend and stuff. So go check out folks. April 10th. It'd be great to see you there. We got cool sponsors, we got cool speakers, breakfast, lunch, and tons of coffee. People always complain about coffee. That's the biggest complaint we always get. So we're never going to run out of coffee ever again. Okay. And it's just the time to all come together and see people in person. It is hybrid, but I really tell people if you can make it in person, come in person. I see that Ned joined. Ned, are you going to join virtually or physically to come? Because from the Midwest, it might be harder.
Oh, I'm at the other end of I-35, so I'm going to be joining virtually. Thank you.
The other end of the planet.
In Minneapolis.
We live in the hellscape known as Minneapolis.
Nice.
Hey, good to know you. See you there virtually. Way to go, Ned. Hey. Okay, folks. As we hand over to Jay, I've got one thing to ask people. If you can, if you're having lunch, if you can take a pause in the bite, we always do a Brady Bunch picture. Thank you, Ned. Okay, so as many people as possible that can turn on their camera, okay, just for 5 seconds, let's do this, okay? I'm gonna stop sharing, so I hand over to you, Jay. And if you can, I see Ned. Yeah, there's Lendrell. Way to go. Anybody else? William, yes, good to see you. Jason, all right. Come on, a few more seconds and we're doing it, folks. We're doing it. Hey? Okay, who else? Yes. Krishnavani, I see you. All right. So act as if you're having a good time, folks, okay? 3, 2, 1. I got it. Yes. Thank you. I'm going to be posting this on the meetup, okay? That's it. Jay, please talk to us. Happy to hear about your presentation, your experiences you've had, and you're bringing it live to us. It's all you, Jay.
All right. Can you guys see my screen? Is it showing?
Yes.
All right. So I won't be able to see the chat. So Max, if you could help me out with that. And also if anybody just wants to turn off their mic and ask me a question, feel free. But first of all, thank you for everybody for coming out and seeing this, because this is the first time I've publicly actually presented this. I know some people have seen drafts of this deck, so thank you very much for your feedback. But feedback would be really great. During, after, reach out to me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn's at the bottom there. I would really love to hear you. So this is a talk about kind of my experience. One of the stories that I have a whole bunch of stories over about my career of 25 years. And so I'm gonna go through this and name some things, tell you a story. Hopefully it resonates with you all. But before we start, let me ask something. How many of you have been asked the question, when will you be done? Anybody? I can't see the chat, so
All the time, all the time.
all the time.
We've got friends and everything. That was my comment. My comment is all the time. Feel free to chat, folks, and chat. You know what I'm saying? Share.
All right. Well, so let me ask another question. How many of you felt completely confident in your answer? Anybody?
I see smiley faces, a
Okay,
lot
all
of
right.
smiley faces and everything. Nobody has an accurate answer, is my opinion. And
Uh,
Murphy's Law, and this Murphy's Law that has been quoted here. Yes, always getting away. Very true.
all right. So that's the reaction that I usually get, right? Everyone says they want predictability. Your board wants it. Product definitely wants it. Finance actually wants it as well, right? Like finance, we don't really talk about that. And then, of course, engineering, we're always striving to give that predictable answer, right? But very few organizations know how to build it. So what I'm going to actually do today is make the argument that predictability isn't a planning problem, it's an operating systems problem, right? And once you see it that way, your whole conversation is going to change.
Yeah. And some answers were also, yeah, my answer is will be done when we are done.
Yeah.
And Ned said October 97th. It's just Ned. It's just Ned, you know?
I got a story for you that I'll get to here in a minute. But first let me kind of set the ground of what I'm going to tell you guys about before we get started. So, at one enterprise organization, they were rolling out an entire business line to Canada. So it was a huge rollout, and they had been delayed multiple times before for other initiatives that were in process that we had to do. And so we had made a commitment. This was late 2022, so like November 2022, or no, 2023. And in January 2024, they discovered a dependency because they were migrating user profile information off a legacy enterprise system into this application. And they missed a whole piece of functionality that they didn't even know was there, right? So that was going to delay that whole project by 2 months and expose the business to a $15 million delay, right? So the problem wasn't the effort from the team. The team was working hard, right? People were doing the right things. The problem was visibility, right? Leadership didn't see that risk early enough to do something cheap about it. So when the risk showed up late, you usually have a couple of options. One is you go into heroics, right? Nights, weekends, like just really just trying to get it out as quick as possible. You skip steps, quality suffers. Or the other option you have is to absorb the loss. $15 million to the bottom line would be a huge, huge loss. One other thing you would have is that we had made a commitment to this business stakeholder and you would lose the reputation and trust, right? That would be huge. So none of those is a great way to operate. So I'm going to talk about how or how I actually discovered optionality to bring that date back in and save $15 million. But first, I got to talk about some other core concepts. So I want to name something that most executives won't actually say out loud, but I'm sure pretty much everybody here has experienced it. A lot of executives, they feel like engineering is a black box. They see stuff go in it like a ton of money, headcount, roadmaps, you name it, stuff goes in, but what usually comes out is status reports, a whole bunch of activity. We as engineers, we measure everything, right? And occasionally you get these surprises, right? And that's when leaders ask questions like, hey, are we on track? When are you going to deliver this? And what's actually happening in engineering? And those aren't questions about effort. They're questions about visibility. Can they see what's happening? And when leaders don't have visibility, guess what they do? They compensate with control. There's more check-ins, there's more status meetings, there's more escalations. Not because they don't trust the team, it's because they can't really see clearly what's going on, right? And
And
once
more reports and more reports.
and more reports, right? More coordination costs. It just skyrockets. And just a real quick story here at Schwab one time. My team was the last team on a over a year long project that was actually it was a much longer project. It was a year overdue. And my introduction to that project was a phone call with over 30 people on it. It's VPs and directors and all these people. So you can imagine kind of like I just dropped in, hey, can you get this done in 2 weeks? And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what this is.
No pressure. No
No
pressure.
pressure. No pressure at all, right? So that's the engineering black box. So what typically happens as a result of that is kind of I hear all these types of word in this word cloud, right? You get missed deadlines, you get burnout, you get overcommitments, leadership doesn't trust engineering anymore. So they're like, oh, if we just reorg, that will fix the problem. Um, or they'll hire like a principal architect to get things back on track, right? I have one story for that too. It's pretty crazy. So when the risk is invisible early, it kind of shows up late, right? And when that happens repeatedly, the organization starts to feel like this word cloud, burnout, missed deadlines, firefighting, reorgs, right? A lot of the organizations interpret this as a talent problem, and that's usually not the root cause. What's really happening is leadership is operating on belief instead of confidence. So coming back to kind of the beginning here, once I was in an interview recently and the hiring manager said, hey, I went and talked to my engineering managers and because there was a lot of tension between the sales team and the product team because they had no idea when things were going to be coming out of engineering, right? And he asked the engineering manager specifically about this, and the manager responded with, well, we basically do this by vibes. Like you've heard of vibe coding? Well, this is like vibe guessing, right? No malice in it at all, but the belief-based confidence, it just doesn't scale, right? You're not going to be able to like scale an organization on that or make the commitments that you're going to be able to your customers of when they're going to be able to get like certain functionality, right? And so when confidence is based on belief, volatility like this becomes normal, right? And once that volatility is normal, burnout usually follows pretty quickly. So the confidence gap. Let me take a quick drink. So if this feels familiar to you, this is not isolated. So there's an organization called Lead Dev. I don't know if anybody's heard of Lead Dev, but they came out with late last year, they came out with their engineering performance report. And in it, it said about 83% of engineering leaders say they rely primarily on qualitative judgment to evaluate performance. Not delivery confidence, not anything else, right? Just judgment. So only about 28% connect engineering metrics directly to business outcomes.
So sad.
It is,
So sad.
it is so sad.
And it's yeah, sometimes you wonder how do they get statistics and percentages, but being that I've lived in that environment
Yep.
for a long time, totally understand it. Every time performance reviews times comes about and everything, you just start talking about random stuff, right?
That's
And it's
correct.
not objective data about delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in this model, like you can get down to because I was actually at Lead Dev in New York this past October. I was talking to individual contributors, and they were really saying, "Hey, I want to know what this line of code, what the business impact was." And so when I talked to them, I was able to break it down and say, "Well, that line of code was probably about $10,000 worth of value you delivered,
Wow. Wow.
which is pretty amazing."
Yeah.
But back to this real quick about roughly 1 in 5 say they feel confident on their delivery estimations. So confidence gap is real, right? So quick check, like if your CFO walked into the room right now and asked you to bet your quarter on your delivery estimations, would you take that bet? Right? Most leaders they can explain what happened with fine-grained detail. Like I said, we measure everything, right? But far fewer can see into the future and what will happen next, right? And that is the confidence gap that I'm talking about.
Yeah, and Jay, the answers were from Tim, no, from me, no, from Mike, no way, from Maggie. My CFO is not allowed into my office. So it's all no. It's all like hell no. Yeah,
Right. Well, I'll get to
that's an issue.
I'll
And
get to
that's an
finance and CFO in a minute.
issue.
So we focus a lot on what we've done, right? So most engineering metrics explain the past. We have velocity, we have cycle time, we have burn down charts, we have DORA metrics, we have all this stuff, right? And those are all useful. We should not stop doing those, right? But they're all backwards looking. But what if we focus on what we're going to do, right? Executives aren't trying to understand what already happened. They're trying to decide what to do next, right? They need they need forward visibility into what's likely to happen next, where risk is building, where capacity is constrained, and predictability isn't about certainty. It's about seeing the exposure early enough to make better decisions. So here's the promise, and I'm going to go through each of these. So at the individual contributor level, it's safety through visibility. At your engineering managers, it's confidence through forecasting. For directors and VPs, it's control through alignment. At the CPO, COO, it's predictable outcomes across a portfolio. At the CTO, CIO, it's systemic reliability and strategic capacity. And I got stories on that one too. That's pretty cool. At the CFO level, it's yield on investment. And at the CEO and board level, it's clarity, credibility, and confidence at scale. Right? Once this connection exists, engineering stops looking like a cost center and it starts looking like a value engine the business can steer. Think about that. That's a complete total shift because of the engineering black box.
We could talk for an hour on each level here,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So let me show you a chart. So visibility creates stability, right? This is a pretty simple chart. So this is not a status report. It's forward visibility, right? And so let me change my pointer here.
It's not a story point burn up,
No,
right?
this is not. This is not. So this is all about throughput. And so this purple dashed line here, this is 95% confidence of what the team can deliver. And the yellow dash line here is 70% confidence of what the team can deliver. Right? And so what matters here is that the team isn't chasing the line, right? We're watching week over week how the team is performing against this forecast, right? And so when the delivery stays inside the band, something interesting happens. That big cloud, word cloud with chaos, right? That volatility drops, right? The team calms down because now we're having operational discipline, especially this team, right? They are just hugging that 95% confidence. And then you can count on it. You can count on that capacity, right? And so this is the system behaving the way it's intended. Now you're going to get volatility when you first start this, but as you run it, it should calm down. So raise your hand if you've ever had planning conversation that felt more emotional than analytical. I know I have. I think we can do it, right? It's all that gut feel. So clarity creates options, right? So let's zoom out and look at a project. So this is actually some data from a project from that project I was telling you about early on. Actually, this is a different project the team was working on at the time. And this particular initiative had a due date of March, right? And so here's the end of March. So this red dotted line is the throughput that the team needed to have in order to meet that date for this backlog size, right? And then the yellow dotted line and the purple dotted line were kind of modeled based off of their current throughput. So I think this one is seven items a week done, and this one's 8 items a week done. And you can kind of see they're about 4 weeks ahead of schedule, right? And that right there gives you options. So there's no stretch goals here. This is not aspirational. It's like the reality of how the team is working, right? And so by mid-December or in December, you can see that they're about 4 weeks ahead, right? And that gap is very comfortable to be in, right? But it's not comfort, it's optionality, in my opinion.
It's not comfort, it's optionality.
Yep, this gives you options, and I'll explain why in just a second.
Yes.
So so when that late dependency was discovered, right? We didn't panic. We absorbed the scope. So let me move on. I'll come back to these. So who else lives in a world of forecasts and actuals and probabilities and confidence? Finance, right? They're a lot more similar to engineering than I ever would have thought, right? But this is where it gets interesting because they manage probabilities, they think in capital exposure and forecast accuracy, and then the confidence in the returns, right? So when engineering begins operating in the same orientation, something changes. The conversation shifts from effort to exposure, right? Instead of saying we're working hard, we can say, here's the risk profile of the delivery. So how many of you have ever tried explaining velocity to your CFO? Right? They get the deer in the headlights and they typically are like, I don't even understand what all these metrics are that you're talking about. It's that black box issue, right? And then they just go away and let us do whatever we need to do.
Yeah. How about when you try to explain velocity and story points?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
my God. No.
All right. So let me come back to this confidence chart. So the only reason the $15 million pivot worked is because the team trusted the data, right? Every week I had a simple loop. I call it forecast, track, reflect. So not only on the commitments, but our capacity, right? So this is a capacity chart. How many tickets can we do for a given amount of time? This just so happens to be a quarter, right?
And Jay, we had a couple of comments on the velocity. I'm not sure if you want to hear that
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. Go for it. What are they?
Maggie said, I usually make an analogy to explain. It'd be interesting to hear more if people want to explain stuff, right? A bit more. And Ned said, velocity is like cash flow. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like tempted to say, tell me more, Ned, on that. Not to put you on the spot, you know?
There's a reason I put a question mark on that.
Oh. so
Well, I
you're
mean,
so you're being cheeky about it, like,
No, just a little bit. I mean, the velocity, again, it's something I try not to explain to management because when they hear about it, they say, "Oh, good. I want you to put that in your weekly report." To which my response, and oh, by the way, I want to use it for performance reviews. At which point I say, I never told you anything about velocity. I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't exist. It's just a thing that applies to car engineering. We don't do that here.
well, I mean, so like, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. So Ned is kind of right in my opinion. Velocity is cash flow, right? So typically, conservatively, an engineering team is responsible for about $5 million in roadmap every year, right? And so if you divide that by four, I think it's like 1.25 million a quarter, right? And so if you come with that assumption,
yeah,
like in this is a quarterly chart and it's roughly 150 tickets. Well, if you have $1.25 million at stake, you divide it by 150 and there's your value you're delivering per ticket,
yeah. Mm.
you know?
That's the
And
way to
so
look at it. Yep.
And that resonates with finance. Just let me tell you, like they love it, right? So here with this feedback loop, forecast, track, reflect, right? And we're looking at our capacity week over week over week, and we're seeing our backlog grow. That's what that solid orange line is the backlog growth, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And there's some comments along the velocity stuff, like Camel that said that velocity was, like initially used as a forecasting tool for the team. I mean, internally, it
yep.
wasn't a management forecasting or starting to manage the resources and
Yeah.
stuff. I think that is, we've got some good alignment on that, right?
Yeah. And again, this chart, if you showed this chart to your executive leadership team, especially finance, they're going to eat it up, right? Because you're protecting that capital investment they're making in you and the organization. Because if that forecast and actuals deviates significantly from the forecast, they're going to want to know why, right? And that's the,
Right.
that's the
Yeah.
that's the accountability piece that is missing fundamentally in engineering, in my opinion,
Mhm.
right? Which I have some more to talk about on that.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so let's see. So, so going back to that $15 million story, when that additional scope arrived, right, we didn't argue about it. We modeled it to see if we could actually absorb that scope. So everything we've looked at so far comes back to one thing, and it's confidence, that confidence gap, right? Not optimism, not velocity, not vibes, right? It's confidence. You got to have confidence. And so when risk is invisible, chaos usually fills the gap. So when exposure is visible early, the chaos has nowhere to hide, and confidence allows teams to move quickly without panic, right? No heroics here. It allows leaders to make decisions without guessing, right? So now they can actually steer the organization a lot better when they can see it. So let me come back to this $15 million chart. So this chart right here was a different initiative that my team was working on at the time. And I alluded to it that the other team, another team, an offshore team, missed functionality that they didn't estimate. And so they were coming back saying, hey, it's going to be 2 months late because we got to do this. And I looked at this chart and said, hey, we're 4 weeks ahead. Let's get the engineering managers together and the tech leads together and decompose that work and see if it even fits, right? So that's exactly what we did. We did that. We decomposed the work and then we modeled it out and then we realized, oh my gosh, we had the capacity to deliver that work by the end of April. And what we could do with this is that since our throughput is so high, we could flatline the throughput week over week. We could actually go past that red dotted line by 4 to 6 weeks and pick it back up and more than likely make that end of March date. So that's exactly what we did. And so we kept that feedback loop, that forecast track reflect loop in. And the very next week when I talked to my engineering manager, I saw this yellow line tick up and I'm like, what's going on? I thought we said we were going to flatline this and then focus on this Canadian delivery. And he said, after looking at the data even more, he felt as though he could do both. And I said, okay, go for it. We're gonna watch it week over week and see if you can make it. And lo and behold, he made both of them. Right. So he kept this commitment and he was able to deliver on that Canadian business rollout and pull that in and save that relationship and save that $15 million. Right. Huge, huge win.
Impressive.
Right. So has anyone here ever discovered work halfway through a migration that no one knew existed? I'm sure, right?
All the time.
All
All
the time,
the
all the
time.
time. But if you can't see what your options are,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to pull out the heroics.
Yes.
The nights, the weekends, you're gonna pull in people, you're gonna do all sorts of stuff to try to pull in that date because a $15 million hit and that relationship trust is huge, right? And here we could see we were 4 weeks ahead. You know what? My team didn't work nights and weekends. There were no heroics. They just did the work, got it done, kept moving.
And Jay, I think it's so interesting how we have become a corporate culture of celebrating the heroics that are done sometimes. I've seen people get promotions
Oh yeah.
because if they can, when nobody asked, wait, hold on a second, he actually started the fire. Right? He saved us from the fire, but he was the arsonist. He was the one that started it too.
Yep.
Like, there's just like no questioning why things went wrong and everything. It was just like, great work. Hey, great work to jump in and fix it. Great work, teamwork. You worked over the weekend. You made it happen. And there's not that question of like, why did we have to do that? Right? And stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we should that should be a rare thing that happens, right? Should be
absolutely.
totally rare. But when you don't know what your capacity is with confidence, you get that outcome, right? And that's what I try to avoid with this specifically, right? Let me move on. So visibility beats velocity. Everything I just walked through, the optionality, the capital protection, none of it came from moving faster, right? It came from seeing the system clearly, right? When teams don't have visibility, they compensate with speed. They push harder, they add people, they compress timelines, and sometimes that works until it doesn't, right? So velocity without visibility just means you hit problems faster. And so, but visibility changes the game. It creates the options. So once the system becomes visible, something bigger happens. Engineering stops defending itself, forecasts replace the narratives, and promises get replaced with probabilities. Finance becomes an accountability partner because now the conversation isn't about how busy we are. It's about what did we say would happen and did it. And that's when engineering stops looking like a black box and it becomes something leadership can steer, right? At Lead Dev in New York, there was a CTO that got up on stage. Her name's Mary Williams. You can go to Lead Dev's website. You can watch this talk. It's about tech debt, right? One of the things that really stuck with me was she increased throughput by 300% and drastically reduced lead time, right? She went to her board and showed the Dora metrics, right? And the reaction of her board was, we have no idea what this means. We just know it's good because you tell us, right? So even Dora metrics that are key fundamental metrics that we use as engineers, executives don't understand and get, right? Yeah. But they understand and get forecasts and actuals. They can look at these charts in like 5 seconds, know exactly where we are, right? And now they can make a decision, and week over week, they can see the impact, right? And that's when I get to the comfort zone. This is where I start to cry.
Before you start crying, Jay. Well, first we had a comment, just always sharing what's coming through in chat, right? When you were talking about the velocity stuff, Camel said, perhaps we can say translate team velocity to business visibility.
Yep.
Because I think you made that comment and I jotted that down. Visibility versus velocity.
Yeah, visibility beats velocity. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, beats velocity. Sorry. It's not versus. Sorry. Beats. Yeah. And I think that is something that's so important for people to take away, because this whole thing about, and this happened a little bit with the Agile mindset, because it came a lot through from the software development space. And they're like, oh, we're Agile. And people are like, well, what does that mean? Well, we do story points now, and we do this, and we do that. We do burn down charts, and we do that. And we don't do status reports anymore. And we don't do, and we do this. And there wasn't that time taken to translate and bring people aboard on, here is how we want to show you more visibility. because we have more visibility into stuff that we do. We want to share that with you and then make sure that it's not a black box anymore. Right? I
Right.
think that there were a lot of times that was a missed opportunity for a lot of agilists.
Yep. And a key word you said is the translation, right? The
Yeah.
translation is the hard part. And I've seen some CTOs write about that specifically. And
Yeah.
it's incredibly difficult, right? And so, but what I've discovered is those charts make that translation easy. And it's low effort, low overhead, massive value, huge impact. However, you get into uh, where the transformation stalls, right?
Mhm.
It's the comfort zone. Not because the system fails, right?
Yeah.
It's because the previous state, even when it was chaotic, felt comfortable, right? Firefighting is familiar. Noise looks like progress. Activity creates the illusion of momentum, right? But visibility increases. But when visibility increases, something else happens. That noise disappears, right? The firefighting stops, right? All of that can make some leaders uncomfortable. So once transparency exceeds tolerance, you hit something that I call the comfort ceiling. So this is when you know the system is actually working, right? Your throughput improves, your forecast stabilizes, risk becomes visible, and then suddenly that clarity exposes things, the optics and narratives we're hiding. Right? All the misaligned bets, the fragile plans, the capacity limits.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and
A lot of flaws.
this is the good outcome. Sometimes leadership leans into that clarity and sees it as leverage, right? But more often than not, what I have experienced is that they revert to what feels familiar. Story points, sprints, activity metrics,
Status reports, whatever it
status
is.
reports,
Mhm.
right? It's not a technical limit, it's a leadership limit. And I call that the threat reflex. So vision excites the top and truth threatens the middle. Right? Executives love the idea of transformations. They get predictability, visibility, confidence in delivery, just like finance delivers for them, right? But when the system starts working and the data becomes real, that truth, it lands somewhere else. Usually in the middle or the organization, right? Because that's where the narratives used to live, right? And when that transparency replaces those narratives, the role changes. Because suddenly the system isn't about measuring work, it's about measuring accountability. Because now they can't come in and say, oh, we're doing all this great work, we're going to get it to you, and not provide any sort of insight. It's the black box problem, right?
That's very powerful. It switches from measuring work to measuring accountability.
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah. And, and
Yeah,
and everybody, if you think about it in a logical way, everybody should feel okay with accountability.
you should.
Everybody should, right? It's like you show up, you do your work, things go well or they don't go well, but at least it's visible. It's like it's not, except if you're, but not to jump to conclusion, but you're slacking off or, you're not doing the stuff that you should be doing and everything, but, that should be visible too, right?
Yep. So my challenge to everybody here is where's your ceiling? So every organization has one, right? And the ceiling isn't technical, it's psychological. And the moment when truth meets tolerance and visibility starts exposing those fragile plans they talk about and the capacity limits they don't understand, that's when the threat reflex shows up. Right? So it's an instinct to restore the familiar. So there's probably people in the chat that have gone through a transformation that was wildly successful, right? And then new leadership comes in, they don't understand what's going on. So they revert it back to the belief-based system, right? And you see all your improvements just go up in smoke, right? Wouldn't it be great to have a way to hold those leaders accountable, right? And if you partner with finance and are doing these charts, guess what finance is going to see when your throughput drops dramatically? They're going to be like, "What just happened?"
Jay, there is so much PTSD that I'm still going through from this experiences. I'm like,
Right. But here's the threat reflex in action, right? Once a leader, if they've all they've learned throughout their career is how to control the narrative and optics, right? They're gonna be threatened by this, right? And so you've got to play it safe. So you may have to hide some of this stuff for a while, right? Until it can take hold. Because it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation you're going to have with those particular leaders, and they're out there. But what you try to do is you try to break through that ceiling to make it past that uncomfortable conversation, because the visibility and the transparency gives you leverage and optionalities to do things like save a $15 million delay.
but you said a key point, Jay, is that you have to maybe sometimes judging on the new leader, the new decision maker, or whatever the case may be, might not be ready for this. Like you have to, it's a balancing act, right? Because I've been in scenarios where I've been very transparent. I've been very like, hey, this, that, and everything. And it has actually had effect on my corporate career in corporate America. It actually had an effect in it, right? Because I just didn't go along with the plan that like everybody, because I was like, well, how about this data point? How about this and everything? And people were not ready for it. But
So
you
experience the threat reflex. That's it. That is it. Yep.
Mhm.
And you got to actively manage it. So my call to action for everybody here, and this is the last slide, is where is your ceiling? So thank you everybody for bearing with me through that presentation. Hopefully you got something out of it. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. If I can bring up my chat window.
Yeah, like there were there were a few chats where you were going, where do we go? Okay, Ned was the last one I didn't read. I've had more luck showing management my Kanban CFD. Yeah, CFD stands for
Flow diagram.
beautiful. There you go. There you go. There you go. Ned, if you want to chime in to add anything else to that, feel free. All right.
I won't try to explain it in dynamically. If you know what the consolidated flow diagram looks like, that's
No.
fine. But it's the number one thing that managers love about it is it's always up and to the left, up and to the right rather. So they like charts that go up and to the right. But it's very much like the sort of thing that in terms of confidence level, if you can very clearly see the rate at which work is flowing in to the team, which is why I said cash flow again. You can see the rate at which work is flowing in because that's growing part of your queue, your input queue. And you can also see what the velocity can be read right off the chart, and it's quite accurate. You don't have to go and guess at it. I appreciate Jay's point about we're always predicting based on the future, based on the past, but that's all we have is yesterday's weather to predict the way things are going to go. And then there's some value in that. I think that's the best thing. But
Yeah.
you can easily see with the consolidated flow diagram, how fast things are going and what direction, what the trends are. And as I say, I've had better luck just explaining that to my management than I've had. It's just very much similar to what Jay was saying. It gives you visibility into how fast we're going, and when we're going to reach certain points. And again, if the work is flowing in, and this happens in a lot of organizations where the sales guys are finding things for us to do far faster than we can actually accomplish them. And so at some point you say, when are we going to ship it? Well, never. If you insist on shipping the product that has all the features that everybody's asked for, we're never going to ship because it's flowing in faster. You give them more capacity, and we'll hit. And again, we can using agile technology, we're building the most important things first. So you can ship whatever you want, but not everything that anybody's ever asked for is going to be in there.
Yeah. And and Ned, I mean, spot on about just the flow, right? I think one of the most key things is visualizing the work, right? And so that your salespeople, if they were plugged into things, they wouldn't even have to ask you, how soon can we push this out and everything. They would look at your flow diagram. They might say, how come we're doing work on this then in Q2? It's not a priority. Like they might actually have a comment or feedback on your Kanban flow diagram. But then again, it ties back to what Jay is saying, like that visibility. Visibility beats velocity, right? Like everybody plugging in and you know, if you're dev, if you're engineering, if whomever you are in the company, you should be okay sharing the visibility and the flow to the work that you're doing, right?
And you could read velocity off that chart, but it's not a first order thing. It's the slope of a particular line, which again, that's not something that you want to explain to people necessarily. You just all they really care about is when you're going to hit that point.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's what typically a marketing person needs to know, or the salesperson needs to know. Is the salesperson wants to know, if I add this to the queue now and it just has to take its turn, when will I get it?
Yep.
That kind of question you can answer very quickly because you say, here's how much work is on our plate. Here's when we'll get to yours, and then here's when we'll get it done, more or less. Okay, we're not going to start your thing until we get to this point. That usually, and the other good thing about this approach is that you get the people to making the demands to fight amongst themselves about priorities instead of doing drive-bys with the team and saying, in your spare time, like that exists, please work on this little feature for me.
Can you estimate this real quick and tell me how long it'll take? And then,
Yep.
Well, part of the great thing of the charts that I just showed you guys is that when you start sharing that out with sales and in your product team, and you start showing the forecast versus actuals, and you're hitting it, right? They start to trust you, right? And you start repairing that relationship, which is really fantastic because they feel like they're a part of what's going on in engineering.
Predictability builds trust for sure.
It does. It absolutely does. And so, like, if something were to happen and the chart goes crazy for whatever reason, they can start asking questions and you can answer those questions, right? Or if you have to make a tough call and put a pause on something else, you can get everybody aligned really quickly using those charts about, hey, here's the expected outcome we're going to have by shifting priorities this way.
predictability builds trust. There you go. I jotted it down too. Hold on. We had some more comments. Hold on a second. Kamal said, an interesting one. The translation is the space I seem to be in most of the time as a scrum master or a PO, right? And I think that that's a key thing because then, like, you know how even some people talk about, oh, I got to protect the dev team, right? I've got to protect the dev. What are we protecting? Are we fighting all the time and everything? A scrum master or PO, they should help make the data visible. And that's it, right? Like, that's a key thing. Does Kamal have something to add, or Jay, to that?
So I would just say that the team gets safety in the visibility. Right, I made that point earlier.
Yeah, totally agree. And the visibility is like you said earlier, how much visibility do you want to produce before you also shoot yourself in the foot? So there's always that balance, and this is where it becomes really tricky. If you're a scrum master or PO, is finding that sweet spot. And I agree with Ned. Like, some of the metrics we produce, like, I never ever now put any chart out there that has velocity stuff in it. That is usually left for the team during sprint planning, and decomposition, and then after that, using a CFD and stuff like that actually shows a lot. But let's put it this way: it resonates a lot better with leadership that does not know anything about Agile, but they know, hey, I've got that much work to do. Here's where it's trending. Here's how much got left, and they are happy with that. And
Bingo, Kamal. And
yep.
Yeah, and that connects to what Jay shared today of that chart, right? The chart that shows the predictability and stuff like that, and how you're trending and stuff. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. We had just a couple more points. Maggie shared the old school command and control managers need to come along with the transparency wave instead of fighting the tide. Yeah. I mean, I like to point fingers. We're a kumbaya society here. We appreciate it. But yes, command and control, folks, it's just not things that are going to work, right? But do you want to add to that? Hey, Maggie?
Yeah, just chuckling over here. I mean, yeah, without, having jockeyed in those roles myself of being expected to command and control, right? It's just it's a dance, right? It's a we don't want to gamify it too much. I want to show respect for folks who are tasked with having reports and stuff like that. But I think the ship is sail, like the more we get, AI in there and automating things and, the system's speaking for itself, folks got to, they got to realize that there's so many more places to provide value, and command and control is just, it's time has come. Yeah. It's done.
And like, you know what? Oh, that could be a whole session on itself. How advancements that have been made in technology, I believe, just empowers a very small group of people to be able to deliver really big chunks of work.
Absolutely.
Right. And
Yep.
so this, like, command and control, wait, are we going to wait for you to make a decision, layers up and everything? No, we just want to move and get stuff done. And that will be more like the mindset across the board, right? Whether it be the board, investors, stuff like that. It's like, no, like, empower people and just have them go. Just let me be able to see at all times what you're doing. Just let me see the charts that Jay was sharing. Let me do that. And that's it, right? And stuff. Oh my goodness. And the last point here, we concluded, this is one of my favorite ones. Thank you, Maggie, for bringing it back to Agile principles, Agile values. Working software is the primary measure of progress. I'm a huge believer, and this is where I've seen the most value in being, I'm like an Agilist, those feedback loops of actually seeing what we are delivering and getting feedback on it, like those quick feedback loops on the working software has been, even now that I have my own company, I think that that's our biggest challenging thing, to tell our clients, hey, here's a link to the Figma designs. Here's a link to our staging environment. Here's a link to dev. Provide feedback. We don't have to have a meeting to get the feedback, but just always having to push for feedback has just been just the best game changer for me. So, round of applause for Jay. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, everybody.
We appreciate this. Everybody, Jay is going to be presenting at the Keep Austin Agile Conference on the 10th of April. Feel free to connect with Jay. Jay, I put your link in there, to LinkedIn. Feel free to drop that again, because it'd be awesome to share some feedback with Jay on this presentation and stuff like that. Because then a month from now, he's going to be sharing it again. So feedback is appreciated. I've got a few things to chat with Jay about also, but thank you for this great topic and all that. Folks, we start on time, we end on time. Have a good Friday. I will be posting the link to the YouTube session and our picture on the meetup. Take care. Have a good weekend. Take care, Ned. It's always good seeing you. All right. Oh, Jay, I'm going to be around if you have like 5-10 minutes. Okay.
I'm right here.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Did you stop the recording?
Oh, that's a good point. I like always forget. You went to step.